Well, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, Nux releases a brand new firmware update for the MG300. Want to find out what's in it? Stay tuned. Well, hey there, it's Scott the Pedal Guy. How you doing? Well, we're all about pedal demos, pedal knowledge, and pedal sales. I love pedals, and so do you. In this video, I'm going to take you through the brand new firmware update from Nux for the MG300. It's got a whole bunch of great new workflow features built into it, and I think you're going to really like what you see. Now, one thing you want to do before you get started, though, is you want to back up any presets that you've already created inside of the Nux MG300. You want to know how to do that? Here we go. Now, before we get started, the first thing you're going to want to do is back up all of your presets before you install the new firmware, because once you do, it wipes the slate clean. You're starting from zero. If you're not sure how to do that, don't worry, I got your back. Let's get to it. Okay, the first thing we're going to want to do here is we are going to want to bring up the QuickTone editor, and quite simply, we just want to go to the export option here, and it's going to give us the option to select all. Now, once you select all of it, you then click on the export button, select a destination for it, and that's pretty much all she wrote. And then after that, you can go ahead and install the firmware, which I'm going to take you through the steps on how to do that now. Let's start by getting the firmware installed. First thing you want to do is download the firmware updater from the Nux website. I'll leave a link in the video description so you can find it for yourself. Once you've downloaded it and extracted the files, the next thing you need to do is launch the device updater, which is what you're looking at in the lower right screen. Now, as you can see, there it says no device found, and that's because the MG300 is not in firmware update mode. In order to do that, all you have to do is just unplug the MG300, hold down the loop and the drum switch, plug it back in, and now you're in firmware update mode. And you can also see that the device updater software now tells you that the MG300 device connected. So at this point, I can go ahead and hit select file, locate the file, the firmware file that's included with the download, and then we can start the update. Now, I don't have to bore you and take you through the whole process of how long this takes. It takes about a minute or so before it's done, but once that's finished, we're now ready to go ahead and start exploring the new features in the firmware, which we're going to do right now. Alright, the first new feature I'm going to show you is how to lock the master volume. If I make changes to the master volume knob on the MG300, you can see that those changes are being reflected in the QuickTone editor. But what if I wanted to lock the master volume knob? Now, why would I want to do this? Well, if I'm playing live and I accidentally hit that knob, it's going to change the volume and make it a little less professional sounding, right? So why not lock that? It's very simple to do. Hold down the Edit and Save button to enter the edit mode or to get to the system menu. And from here, you have a few choices, and we've looked at these before. We have factory, we have pedal, we have USB, and now we have master. So in order to access this, just press the Save button. And from here, what I can do is I can adjust my master volume and set what I want it to be. At that point now, I can use the level knob, and I can adjust it so that it locks. And once it does that, it's locked and you're ready to go. So at this point, I can hit the Save button, and here's another thing you're going to see is a data saving dialog that pops up. And that's great because that was kind of a mystery before when you made any adjustments. Was it actually saving anything? Well, yes, it was. It just wasn't telling you, but now it does. So at this point now, if I make any adjustments to the master volume, you can see now that the volume is in fact locked. Okay, another new feature I'm going to show you, and this is a really helpful one, is how to disengage and re-engage different blocks within a preset. Say, for example, you're in edit mode and you're working with what you can see here is the spring reverb. If you want to quickly turn that off, you have to use the select knob and go all the way back to the beginning to turn it off. And then if you want to re-engage it, you have to turn it all the way back on again. It's kind of a pain, right? Well, now what you can do is simply press and release simultaneously the group module button, and it will instantly bypass or disengage that block. If you want to bring it back, just simply press and release again, and now you're back to square one. Isn't that helpful? Alright, I know you're going to dig this new feature. You can now set a new default and EQ global mode when you boot up the MG300. And what I mean by this is when you go into mode, the global mode, by default, the EQ is set to pretty much flat, and it's controlled by the gain, level, and master knobs. Additionally, if you want to change the mode from, say, Studio Direct to something that's a little more a little more compatible with your amp setup, you use the select knob to go to combo front, stack front, combo rear, and stack rear. And the rear means it goes into the return of the effects loop. I have a whole video on how this works, and I'll leave a link in the video description so you can check it out for yourself. But let's say I want to work in the stack front, and I want the EQ settings to be as I've just set them. And I want it to be that way every time I boot up the MG300. Well, it's as simple as pressing the save button. You can see the data saving dialog pops up, and that's all she wrote. So now if you unplug the MG300 and then you replug it back in, you can see that the QuickTone editor is also blank again here because it's waiting to see that. Okay, go back into mode, and hey, would you look at that? That global mode, that global EQ is now set by default. Isn't that helpful? All right, another feature coming at you. When you boot up the MG300, by default, the 1A preset is always going to be the preset that boots up. Or so you thought. Let's say you have a preset on the MG300 that you really like and you want that to be the default preset when you boot up the unit. Let's say, for example, the Steve Vai preset is the one that we want. Well, it's simple to do. Hit the save button, then press it again. You can see the data saving dialog comes up. And now what we'll do is we will unplug the MG300. You can see that the QuickTone editor is also offline. So we'll go ahead and plug it back in to reboot it. And now with a little bit of luck, you can see that the Steve Vai preset is the first preset that shows up in the MG300. And you can also see that in the QuickTone editor, it's being reflected there as well. So here's another handy little workflow feature. Let's say we're in the global system, the global menu dialog, and we want to quickly get out of it. Before it was kind of a pain because you had to do a couple of extra moves, but now with the new firmware, you just simply hit the edit exit button and now you're back up to the top level. Okay, here's one last workflow feature that was introduced with this firmware update. Let's say you're in edit mode and you want to save this preset to another location on the MG300. You can use the foot switches, the loop and the drum foot switches, to assign a new location, and you can make changes to the name if you want to, and then press the save button and it'll save it to that location. So you can see now that that change has been reflected in the QuickTone editor. So when I go back to the first preset, it's there, and there's the second preset that I just saved. Okay, those are the brand new features found in the new firmware for the MG300. I hope you found this video useful. If you have any further questions, use the comment section and I'll get back to you when I can. Thanks. Well, thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any further questions, be sure to visit us at thepedalguy.com. But in the meantime, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and also be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for weekly videos and tutorials. Thanks for stopping by here at thepedalguy.com, where I love pedals and so do you.